All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We have so many wonderful resources online, both videos and audio recordings, but I wanted to just get one really good sort of basic CFQ meeting recorded so you guys could go back for training purposes and listen to it. And you can also use it for your staff and for advisors or people that you're training in your office. So what you guys see in front of you right now is a copy of our confidential questionnaire, and it is PDF-able and fillable online, so you can email it to your clients ahead of time before they come in for their first meeting. I always tell people that it is not necessary for somebody to have filled this out before they come in. So it's not like an excuse to not come in for that first meeting. Oh, I didn't get a chance to fill it out. But if you send this to people ahead of time, you'd be surprised how many people will just go ahead and fill it out ahead of time. They can either email it back to you, or they can just print it out and bring it in with them. All right. So in this particular case, let's just assume they did not fill it out, and so we're sitting with the client in the first time. And you know, I do work with a lot of different advisors and a lot of different scenarios, and you know, we sort of not require necessarily, but we strongly suggest that if you're going to do a case with me or one of our sort of team of mentoring advisors, that you have this stuff to us ahead of time, because the questionnaire meeting can be really fruitful and really you can get a lot done in that first meeting if you have more information, or it can be a little bit of a getting to know you kind of thing. But then you will have sort of an extra meeting in our 4-step process. So the idea is 4 steps, right? And it doesn't have to be 4 meetings, but the idea is definitely 4 steps. So we can do 2 steps in 1 meeting sometimes. Sometimes 1 step might take 2 meetings. So think about this and try to make it as efficient as possible. The other point is, if we get this information ahead of time, that does enable us to populate a model. So if we can populate a model, then we have a lot more to talk about in that first meeting as well. But I know, like I said, if you're listening to this recording, you should also have access and be listening to some of the other ones, maybe that Tyler or some other people have done that I've gotten really great feedback on. All right, so this is going to be just going to go through the questionnaire very simple with you and talk about how to ask the questions and how to navigate the clients through this sort of discussion and how to walk them through it. The first, number one thing I'm going to tell you guys is think about the CFQ as a first date, right? You're really trying to get to know somebody, a little bit trying to make a first impression on them, but it's human nature to be able to sense when somebody's really trying to get to know you. So it's not just a fact finder intake form. You know, so I think the weakest CFQs that we see are when people just see it as a fact finder intake form, because then you're just writing down, you're just kind of Q&A, writing down. But we're going to sort of steer the conversation towards the philosophical places that we want our client to head towards. And again, I'm going to remind you what those are now, but you should know those, right? The philosophical places that we're going is, number one, we want to talk to them about indexes, right? Indexes. So I don't know if we're going to get into that today. Hopefully we will. But we really want to figure out how the client has been making their financial decisions. And the reason why we want to talk about indexes is because we really want to start planting some seeds now for a discussion about fees, right? And we want the client to understand that fees are something that we do have a choice about, and fees are something that we do control. The second part of our discussion, after indexes and fees, are going to be about taxes. So hopefully you have a tax return in this confidential questionnaire meeting, right? So the CFQ meeting, you should definitely have a tax return. This is the part of the training where we talk about selling off the tax return. All right? When I say selling off the tax return, we're not selling taxes. We're not selling tax work. We're selling ourselves. We're selling our process. We're selling our philosophy. But we're also building massive amounts of credibility for ourselves. Okay? And the third part, hopefully you guys all know this, is the estate planning side. Most of our clients that come in the door, maybe 90% of them, are really weak on estate planning. So I can take a young person who has no experience in this business whatsoever and teach them how to steer a conversation towards fees, taxes, and estate planning, and make that young, inexperienced person look very credible. And conversely, I can take somebody who's really experienced and credible and just make him look like an absolute superstar, because we're really going to be focusing on having discussions about things that people are not accustomed to having. All right? The background data, we'll just jump right in, is important, and we tell people that it's important because we don't want to know about your family. We want to know about have you been married before, do you have any kids? As soon as you get the information about the kids, either yes, they have kids, okay, you can ask them right away. So, right, that's great, you have kids. What is your estate plan? Or no, they don't have kids. What is your estate plan? So those questions, the very simple questions like what is your estate plan, is going to get them to start interacting with you right away. And it's not a threatening question whatsoever. So people might say, oh, I have a will, or oh, I have a trust. And if they say, I've done that, a lot of times I'll just let them talk. You might say to them, well, a will is not an estate plan, or a trust is not an estate plan. But I don't think at this point we really need to get into any type of tug of war, push-pull with them whatsoever. It's just more letting them talk freely. Most of the time they'll say, oh, I don't really have an estate plan. I'll say, okay, great. I think this is an area where it's going to be worthwhile focusing attention on. So when I just said that, it seemed very innocuous and very harmless, but what they thought in their mind was, okay, I'm now sitting with somebody that can help me with my estate plan. I didn't need to say, oh yeah, that's what we do, or I specialize in this, or I'm an attorney, or any of that kind of junk. Right? I just said, okay, great. That sounds like something we can spend some attention on, time on, and it'll be worthwhile for you. All right. The other reason why the background family data is really important is it gives you the information to fill out applications in the future. So we need DOBs, we need places of birth, we need Social Security numbers. Okay. It's not live or die if they don't want to give you their Social Security number yet, but it does give us some really good information about trust, credibility, what they're nervous about, why they don't want to share it with you, all this kind of stuff. We don't want to push it all. There's no pushing in this meeting whatsoever. This meeting is entirely about getting the client to open up. And I'm really wanting to get to know this client. Again, it's a first date. I want to date you. I want to get to know you. I want to see you again. I want to become a part of your life. And they'll sense that. They'll feel that, and they'll be drawn towards you. Okay? Not just where do you live, but how long have you lived there, all their good contact information. Are you planning on moving? Where do you want to live in retirement? Do you have multiple homes? Just get a sense for their real estate right now. And of course, I always talk about, as far as the work stuff, when do you want to retire? If you don't have a model right now, you can just write in a note here, when you want to retire. That enables us to create a model based upon a projected retirement age. So if they don't know, that's fine, but we can do a model based upon age 66 or age 70. How long have they worked? Do you have a pension? Are you going to receive any benefits from any previous employment that we should know about in retirement? Do you have any vested pensions anywhere else? The employment data is going to give us a lot of really good information for projections. All right, obviously we want to know about their income, not just their W-2 income, but do you own a business? Are you getting bonuses, commissions, other business incomes, rental real estate income? Just go through those questions with them and ask them. And if all of a sudden they say, oh yeah, I've got 3 or 4 houses, they say, okay, that's great. What is your long-term plan? Right? What's your long-term plan if they say, oh, as far as income, I've got a big investment portfolio, or I've got a trust that's paying me income? I just always ask, okay, that's wonderful. What's your long-term plan with that? And just get them to talk and open up more. Again, our goal is to get information, but it's not just an intake fact finder meeting. We want to find out not just what's going on, but who's making the decisions, why they're making the decisions, how they're making. It's the who, what, where, why, how, and when, right? The who, what, where, how, why, and when, we really want to put those questions to every different aspect of this model, every different aspect of the CFQ. You don't have to say them in those words, but that's what you're trying to pull out information on, okay? It's kind of like going into a doctor's office. I'm just going to presume that this client's going to tell me everything. You're going to go in the doctor's office. You're presuming that you're going to get undressed. You're presuming they're going to take your blood pressure, and you're presuming they're going to do this general stuff. It's the same thing here. Okay? How much do you have in savings? Where do you keep your liquid cash? Any money markets, IRAs, retirement accounts? As you're going through this, again, I like to either look at something that's already filled out and pull out the statements to verify, or I like to write in the answer if it's not filled out ahead of time, but also verify with a statement. Because if they say I've got $450,000 in a traditional IRA, but you can't verify that with a statement, then they don't have it, right? So you can pencil it in, but I need that statement to verify that for next time. So again, this might seem like a little non-important type of stuff, but when we take the intake off of this questionnaire, we're going to create a model off of it, and that model has to be accurate. And you guys have seen those models in action or if you haven't, you will. Those models are so powerful. When you show somebody their entire financial life on one piece of paper, it really kind of gives them a sense that not only have we done a bunch of work, but we can do all the projections in the world that we need, answer their questions, all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so all of the retirement account information. Now, this is the part that a lot of people miss. I don't just want to know how much is in your IRA. I don't just want to know how much is in your 401k. I need to know if part of it's Roth, for sure, and I need to know how much you're putting in. Okay, but again, I still need to verify that. So if you tell me you're maxing it, and I pull up your pay stub and it says 5%, you're not maxing it. Right? So I don't want to really take somebody's word for anything. I'll jot down the information, but I'm only going to put it on the model if I can verify the document. Right? That's why I need that pay stub. Right? I need to have the statement from the 401k. You'll be able to get everything you need to get from those statements. All right? How are you making your decisions in your 401k? Who's guiding you on how to invest? Who's guiding you on how to make those decisions? Again, we're trying to get them to open up. They'll tell you, I've got this guy, I've got this guy, I've got nobody. I'm lucky. I just take a shot in the dark. I don't really know what I'm doing, or I studied. I like to day trade. They'll tell you, right? But we need to know all that kind of stuff early on. Partnerships, other types of investments outside stocks. Make sure you put as much information on here. Again, not just how much money's in there, not just who owns the account, but how much money's flowing in. I've had cases where people are saving $1,000 a month in mutual funds, but they didn't get that information, so I'm not projecting the proper amount of the model. Right? The model that we do, the life cycle model, is not going to give us a proper projection for retirement if it's not on there. In fact, I'm going to just pull up a model real quick. I have a John Doe model, I believe, right on my desktop here. So the questionnaire in the model, I really like to have this on the screen. Like ideally, when I'm doing the confidential questionnaire, if it's a good one, and I know they're not all like this, but this is on the screen while you're going through the questionnaire, right? Because we have all the documents ahead of time and we're able to prepare it. So maybe, I don't know, to be fair, guys, a third of the time that happens. Right, a third of the time I can plan out everything ahead of time, but the other 2/3 of the time they're bringing their stuff in with them, and I don't have a lot ahead of time. Right, but if I want to do an accurate projection here with inflation and income and social and everything like this, I need to have not just the proper projections on how much they're putting in. I need to know their company match. Right, so I can say, okay, you're going to grow this thing to $362,000 based upon what you're putting in between now and age 67. Me being able to tell a client in 3 years your 401k is going to be worth $362 based upon these numbers that I have that are good numbers, that's really powerful. Right? That is really powerful. So they're going to get a lot of, or you're going to get a lot of credibility out of here. So we can toggle back and forth between the model and the questionnaire. But if you don't have the model, then that's fine. We're just working on the questionnaire right now. And let me make sure I have the questionnaire. What happened to it? Fillable questionnaire. Perfect. All right, so we've got all their assets down here. Right, now we're going to talk about the real estate. Right, not just do you own a home, but when did you buy it? How much money did you put into it? How much did you pay for it? What's your mortgage? What's the interest rate? And how much do you owe? Are you making extra payments? Are there any other homes that you own? Again, same deal. Are you planning on moving in retirement? You can go back and ask the questions about the real estate. What is your exit strategy? These are all sort of questions that get people to think that people haven't asked them before. So other than the real estate, and again, I need to have as much accurate information so I can plug in the mortgages and plug in the projections. I want to know how long it's going to be until the mortgage is paid off, all that kind of good stuff. Student loans, car loans, home equity lines of credit, credit card loans, all that stuff needs to be on here. Not just the type of loan, but how much they owe and how much they're paying. Okay, this is a great piece for debt consolidation. Right? Let's say, for example, let me just say, for example, that they own a residence. I won't punch it in here now, but let's say their interest rate is 4.5%. Sorry, it's really, really small here. In fact, it's not a good idea for me to do on this because I'm going to do it wrong because I just realized it's populated everything here. But let's say the interest rate is 4.5% and their payment is $2,000. Right? We might find that they have a credit card loan for 18% interest that's $20,000, plus a car loan for 7%, plus a student loan for 7%. Right? We might say, hey, look, did you ever think about consolidating these loans? So if somebody's going to do a truly great CFQ meeting, we're going to toggle between this questionnaire that's in front of you, the model, right, that we've already done, and the life cycle calculator. Right? I'm going to pull this life cycle calculator up during the meeting. I'm going to say, okay, this is where I can actually do it. Let's say you have a loan for $250,000 and it's 4.5%. Right? But you also have a bunch of other stuff going on. So I say, okay, let's go ahead and get a loan for $350,000. Have you ever considered doing a refinance to consolidate this stuff, right? And you could take out an extra $100,000 and pay off your student loans, your credit cards, and your car. Right? You might find that when you refinance your house and take out an extra $100,000, you might find your payment only goes up by $300. But between the credit card you paid off, the student loans you paid off, and the car loan you paid off, you just saved $1,400 in monthly payment. Right? So you increased your mortgage payment, but you also increased your tax savings. Right? You got out a bunch of money. Now you only have one loan rather than 4 or 5, and your payment's $1,700 rather than $2,900. So you save $1,200 a month. That could be a no-brainer for us. But we want to be able to walk our clients through that during the questionnaire so they can see how we use the calculators together with the model, together with the actual intake form. Okay? So get all the information about debt. You can tell how important it is. We're planting seeds. We're gaining credibility for ourselves. We're building a relationship. It's really, really important. Okay. Insurance, obviously, car, home, life insurance, long-term care. We don't really want to differentiate. We don't want them sensing that we have a lean towards life insurance and long-term care. That's why all the insurance is on one page. Who do you have your stuff with? What are you paying? What's your long-term plan with your insurance? Do you have long-term care? What's your exit strategy for your life insurance? Were you planning on ditching it? These are all really simple questions that if you have experience, you know about, but you might not know, so you need to write them down. Do you have an umbrella liability policy? If you get into a massive accident, or one of your kids who's a teenage driver gets into an accident, and they get sued because they disabled somebody, what's at risk here? What can they come after? Can they come after your wages? Can they come after your savings? Can they attach your house? The answer is yeah. Absolutely. So do you have the proper coverage in the insurance portfolio that you have here? When was the last time you took a look and see if you had all this stuff updated based upon current mortality tables for 2019? By the way, 2019, every single life insurance company has been ordered by the government to update the mortality tables. Right? So by 2020, it is law that all of the new mortality tables have to be reconfigured for all new insurance policies, for long-term care and life insurance and disability insurance. Right? A lot of people don't know that. So some companies have done it already. So everybody's going to have to do it by the end of 2020. But if you haven't figured that out yet, we may be able to help you re-engineer your insurance portfolio. So number one, it either costs you less. Number two, maybe it lasts longer. Or number three, maybe you have some flexibility to add some additional benefits to your life without any additional out-of-pocket cost. Right? So those are things that people like to hear. I can either save you money on insurance, right? I can have your benefits last longer, or I can add protection without any additional out-of-pocket cost. So if I can do one or two or maybe all three of those things, it might be worthwhile for us to, some people call it running an insurance audit. Some people call it re-engineer your insurance portfolio. I just like to let people know that this is something that we're going to help them walk through, and it's something that we're very well versed in. We do it all the time. This may be a good time to bring up a health screening. Hey, you know what? If you haven't had your overall insurance portfolio looked at and you want to add benefits or get some benefits to extend to a longer period of time or save money, I would definitely recommend we take a look at how your current age and health would affect what our options are. So without any cost or obligation to you, we can have you guys do a health screening where we can shop rates, shop deals, compare them to what you have, and see if we can put you in a better position. It's a very sort of non-threatening statement, but it gives us potential in to help do underwriting early on in this process. All right? So I've run through about 3/4 of this already. We've got a lot of information. We've got some credibility, and it's really going to really help you guys cut the process down by having the model discussion together with the CFQ discussion, together with potential underwriting, planting seeds of refinancing, other stuff like that. And I'll show you a couple more seeds we're going to plant in a second here. Okay, estate plan. Do you have a will? Do you have an attorney? Do you have an accountant? What are your goals? Right? What's your retirement date? And then you can put notes here. So one of the things that I often tell people as they get to this process or this point in the process is I'll look at their stuff and I'll say, I see you've got savings and I see you've got retirement account, but it looks to me like everything is taxable. And this is not an uncommon situation, right? Maybe they've got a tiny little Roth IRA, but the majority of all their retirement accounts, their 401ks, their 403bs, their TSPs, all their mutual funds, their brokerage accounts, their stock accounts, this stuff is all taxable. So I might say to them, did you really intend for everything to be taxable? Because it's a good question to see how they respond. Right? If I go to this John Doe model, so your Schwab account's taxable, you got a little bit of Roth, tiny bit of Roth, but these are all taxable, you got some savings. Did you really intend for everything to be taxable? Or have you really considered or have you thought about maybe doing some more tax sheltering? So the tax sheltering buzzword is going to get them thinking, okay, what does tax sheltering mean? I might also say a lot of our clients like to put money into things that give them tax-free income in retirement. I don't see here where they're going to do a whole lot of tax-free income or get a lot of tax-free income benefit in retirement. Do you think, when you ask somebody the question, do you think maybe we should spend some time talking about tax sheltering and how to generate some tax-free income in retirement? You think you're going to get a pushback from that? Are people going to say, no, I don't want anything tax-free? Of course not. They're going to say, okay, yeah, let's talk about that. I'm open to ideas. Let's see how we might be able to do that. And what we're really setting them up for is not putting so much money into these tax-deferred things, right? Not letting their taxable accounts just continue to grow. We might shift our discussion to, okay, well, let's talk about your tax rates, and we may shift our discussion to, do you even know what the marginal tax rates look like, right? So I'll pull up the marginal tax rates. I'll explain to them how taxes work, and I'm going through this very quickly with you guys. Because I'm running through a lot of different scenarios, but I can get through a questionnaire with somebody in 15 or 20 minutes, and then I can sort of determine where their hot buttons are, right? I can say, okay, this person's hot button is retirement. This person's hot button is taxes. This person's hot button is leaving money to their kids. So in this discussion that we're having, we need to identify that hot button, and then we're going to figure out how to really, really focus on that hot button. And then maybe they have two different hot buttons. Maybe they're concerned about all their insurance going away. Maybe they're concerned about can they retire early and not run out of money. Maybe they're concerned about how to afford quality health care in retirement, and long-term care is really a big deal to them. But all of these things sort of lead us to be able to gain credibility, give them advice, sort of plant seeds. But in the tax world, quite honestly, we have to look at where their taxes are now and say to them, they're probably not going to be in this low of a tax bracket for the rest of their lives. Right? These tax brackets right here are really, really low. I tell people my first job out of college, let's go to a single person, I made $28,000 a year. I lived in Massachusetts. Right now, if you make $28,000 a year, you're in a 12% bracket. I was in a 28% bracket. So making $28,000 a year in the mid-1990s, I was in a tax bracket of somebody making between $150,000 and $200,000 a year, making 28. That's how much lower our tax brackets are now. And I had Massachusetts state income tax. I paid almost 35% tax, making $28,000 a year. That's unbelievable compared to how low taxes are now. Share that story with people. All right, so they can see, and think about, gosh, well, I really do need to think about taxes. I need to really focus about this stuff in the future. Talk about the capital gains tax. Go right on the calculator. Explain to them the 0, the 5, and the 15. Right? These are all really great credibility pieces for you. So at the end of this really, sort of solid, well-rounded questionnaire meeting, you've built rapport, you've built credibility, you've gone over their taxes, you've talked about insurance, you have an idea of where all their stuff is, and then you can say, okay, we're going to get back in the next meeting, and I'm going to talk to you about tax saving strategies. We're going to talk estate planning. I'm going to talk about how to save some fees on some of the way your money is being managed, how to recapture a bunch of opportunity cost, create additional wealth, get better protection for you. We're going to make all these promises. Okay, but you're not going to say all 7 or 8 or 9 of these things. You're going to focus on the 1 or 2 that's important to these guys. That's what's going to drive them. All right, 1 or 2 things that's really important to them. Focus on that for the next meeting. We'll do the life cycle model review. Some people call it the LCM. It's going to be a ton of fun. You're going to blow up the islands. You're going to completely devastate them. You're going to make them want to jump off a cliff, and you're going to want them to say, please throw me a lifeline. And that's going to be a really fun meeting. But in order to set up a really good life cycle review meeting, you've got to have a really good questionnaire meeting. And also you can determine if they're a good client for you or not, or a good fit. And then if they're not, you can pass them to somebody else in your office, or you can send them to some other resources or whatever it is. But if they're in your sort of A or B client wheelhouse, and you've done a really great job in this meeting, it should take you 45 minutes to an hour, and they should be really anxious and excited to hear what you have to say in the next meeting. That's all we're doing, is setting ourselves up for really great success in that next meeting. Okay, so what I'll probably do is stop the recording and see if you guys have any questions.